What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you guys through my very own free draft for the upcoming Blank Game Week 28. Now first things first, I unfortunately won't be using the chip this game week. I wildcard on Game Week 26, so I'm pretty well set up for this upcoming Blank Game Week. But if you guys are choosing to use the chip on the biggest blank of the season, this is the perfect video for you guys. Now even if you guys aren't on the chip, I think this video will be super valuable for those transfers in, maybe to get the best transfers in for this upcoming Blank Game Week. I'll be running through all those assets. Now as I always do with any draft, I'm going to start off with the fixtures, we'll then move on to the financial draft, show you guys each position going from left to right, most expensive to least expensive, and then finally I'll be going over the team selection for the upcoming Blank Game Week. Now unfortunately, because there's so many blank fixtures, as I mentioned, the biggest blank of the season, Game Week 28, there's obviously a limited amount of options from teams, and therefore this draft is pretty template. So what you guys can use this draft for is use it as the template, then you add your own flavor, your own differentials to make it slightly different. So that's something you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So first, going on to the fixtures, I always say the fixtures are the bread and butter of any kind of draft, especially on a free hit, as you only have one game week to focus on. So what I'll be doing right now is going through the fixtures one by one, detailing which teams I would focus on defensively or from an attacking point of view. So let's start off with the first game, Friday night. So please, if you guys are choosing to use the free hit, make sure that that chip is activated come Friday evening, as the deadline is closer than you guys think. So kicking us off on Friday evening has been Nottingham Forest hosting Newcastle. Now definitely from a Newcastle point of view, I would favour this fixture. I think the defenders are slightly easier to look at, but I mean Callum Wilson and Isaac, it's quite hard to predict who's going to start, but even Almiron could be a punt to go for. But I personally will be favouring the defensive department, so Trippier, Ashar, Botman, all three of those should be viable assets to look at. Then heading on to the busiest game of the game week, Saturday, going to start off with that kickoff of Aston Villa versus Bournemouth. Unfortunately, I can't really recommend too many Bournemouth assets. However, Aston Villa have been conceding quite a bit of XG, so Dom Solanke could even be a punt to look at. But I do favour the Aston Villa side of things, and Ollie Watkins, Buendia, you guys will see those options are quite popular, as Bournemouth are pretty bad defensively. Now no, Bournemouth have just come off a game against Liverpool where they won 1-0, keeping out one of the best attacks in the Prem, but honestly I think it was a little bit of luck. So I think that Aston Villa will score in this fixture, is a home game for them, and that's why the Aston Villa attack is definitely on my radar. Now Brentford and Leicester is quite a tough game to call. Don't you think I'll be going for too many defenders from either of these two teams, but from an attacking point of view, I think a Brentford striker of choice is probably going to be pretty popular. Now Leicester also have a couple of good options, and Maddison's probably the standout from that midfield, as Brentford haven't been keeping as many clean sheets as we would have liked. Now Southampton vs Spurs is quite a tough game from a Southampton point of view. Yes, they have proven to be quite tricky customers over the last couple game weeks, but honestly I think Spurs should win this game quite comfortably. Now Harry Kane or Heung-min Son, Richarlison or Kulusevski, whatever attack you guys want to look at, they hopefully should do well, and if you guys can predict whatever fullback is going to start for Spurs, they could be quite valuable as Southampton aren't the most free scoring side. Now Wolves vs Leeds, unfortunately can't really recommend too many of these assets. Both sides are quite hard to call. Defensively both sides have been pretty strong, and both sides have also been struggling to score. So let's skip over that game because I think on a free hit, definitely not the game that I would target, but the next one's definitely one to look at. So Chelsea hosting Everton, great game on paper. Chelsea defenders, Everton, have been scoring a few recently, but I do think Chelsea's defensive numbers are looking pretty strong, and that's why your Ben Chilwells, your Reece Jameses could look pretty good, as they also offer some attacking threat. Now in terms of the attack, a lot of news has been spoken about Kai Havertz. Is he the striker of choice on our free hit? You'll have to wait and see on that one. But other than maybe a Kai Havertz, a Kepa, Chilwell or a Reece James, can't really see too many of their assets. Then the final games definitely want to target on Sunday. It's Arsenal taking on Crystal Palace. Now from a defensive point of view, we've seen that Crystal Palace are really struggling to score. I hope Estupiñán does keep a clean sheet against Crystal Palace tomorrow, as I do own him in my team. So any kind of Arsenal defender to go for, a Ben White, Gabriel, Zinchenko even, they're all viable assets. And even from an attacking point of view, Arsenal's attack is red hot at the moment, so your Odegaards, your Martinellis, your Sakas, they should all be a shoo-in into your team. But as you guys can see, only 7 games going ahead for Blank Game Week 28. Some good fixtures on paper here though, so you guys can still pick some differentials. Comment down below what fixture you guys are targeting from a differential point of view. Also, what's the game you think will get the most points for you? I think that Arsenal vs Crystal Palace game should probably be quite strong for us, as we should own a triple up. So now going into the first portion of our free draft selection. This will be the financial part. I'll be going over each position, going from the most expensive to least expensive players, detailing the price that I could get these assets at. Now please remember that I do own some of these assets, so their kind of selling price or buying prices are slightly different to those of you who don't own them. Now in terms of actual overall finances, I had 2.3 million left in the bank, so quite a lot of money left in the bank. But you guys will see that the team is absolutely stacked, so don't necessarily have to worry about that money in the bank. Now I wasn't worried about that money so much so that I upgraded my second goalkeeper, so my 2 goalkeeper pairing right now is going to be Raya and Kepa. Now I know that Raya has that tough game against Leicester, but from a save point of view, he makes a ton of them, so the save points could be pretty strong. But definitely my goalkeeper of choice will be Kepa. Chelsea's defensive numbers have looked pretty strong, and that Everton at home game is too hard to ignore. So if you guys are a little bit strapped for cash, I would downgrade Raya to maybe a Danny Ward, saves you the money, still gets you a goalkeeper if Kepa misses out. Now there are a few other selections to potentially look at. A Martinez from Aston Villa could be a viable strategy, but I think the chance of Chelsea's clean sheet is slightly higher. So as mentioned, Raya is simply an upgrade because of the money in the bank, and I'd suggest doing so over Danny Ward. But now completing our defensive department, we're going to be going for a 3 at the back. The first more premium defender of choice is going to be Ben Shaw at 5.6 million. So I already spoke about that Chelsea defense. The XG considered numbers are looking pretty strong over the last 6 and the entire season. Now added to that, you have that attacking threat of Ben Shaw at the moment, has a very high XG involvement for Chelsea, and that's why he's the standout pick from that team. Now obviously Reece James could be a selection, but I do prefer Ben Shaw at the moment, as his match fitness seems to be slightly better and his attacking threat is slightly stronger. Now you are doubling up on that Chelsea defense, but against Everton at home, I do back a clean sheet here. Then next up, coming in at the same price, is a no-brainer, Kieran Trippier, Nottingham Forest away, great game on paper, like Ben Shaw, defensive threat, attacking threat, what more could you ask for? Out of the Newcastle defenders, definitely the one that I would potentially look at, and he might be a little bit of a coverage pick here because most non-wildcarders will still own him. The next up is going to be Gabriel, 5.2 million. You guys could go for Zinchenko if you wanted to. I do prefer Gabriel, even though he has finally scored his header that we were waiting so long for, so why not make it 2 in a row? But as I said, Zinchenko, Ben White, whoever you guys want to look at, viable options against the Crystal Palace side that are struggling to score. Now as mentioned, this is going to be a 3 at the back, so the last 2 defenders will be on our bench, and the 2 that I've actually gone for is a triple up on the Newcastle defense. So Fabian Schär and Botman both come in 5.0 million and 4.5 respectively, so not that expensive, and have a great fixture if they have to come off the bench. Now the Newcastle defense has regressed slightly, but I do still back them against Nottingham Forest away side. Now moving into midfield department, and the first player has become a little bit of a template on the free drafts, but if you're differential in terms of the overall ranks, it's going to be Heung-min Son. Now I know Son hasn't had the best season, definitely doesn't justify that 11.6 million price tag, but on a free hit, nice differential with a good fixture that hopefully will start. So what I would do is wait until you get the kind of projected lineups of that Spurs side, because there has been some rotation in that forward line. Now against Southampton away just seems to me like it's a Son fixture. I just have a feeling that Son's going to do well this game week, and that's how I've put him on my free draft. Now yes, he is quite expensive, but as mentioned, in the bank, so much money, so you guys can afford the South Korean. Let me know what your thoughts are about Heung-min Son though down below. Would you rather go for Kulusevski or a Charlison? I just think Son could do well this game week. The next up is going to be our more premium Arsenal attacker of choice. It's Bukayo Saka. Yes, I know, over the last 2 game weeks hasn't done that well, being outscored by Odegaard and Martinelli, which isn't too great. But in terms of a free hit, if you guys are going to pick the best Arsenal asset, I think Saka still is at the top slightly, even though he is more expensive at 8.4 million. He still is on penalties, which hopefully you'll get one if you guys do choose him on your free hit. Now I've comboed him with Odegaard, but you guys could go for Martinelli. I just prefer Odegaard at the moment. Crystal Palace at home seems like it's going to be quite a low block side, but as I said, Martinelli might even be a better selection. Odegaard is also slightly more expensive, so that's why I did include him on this financial free hit. Now going for 2 Arsenal midfielders might be a little bit of overkill, but I still think with their XG looking like they're red hot, I think it might be worth it. Then going on to our last midfielder of choice, and this is definitely kind of a differential punt. It's going to be Buendia against that Bournemouth at home side. Now with that Aston Villa lineup, I don't exactly know if Buendia is as nailed as could be, but I still expect him to start on the weekend, and that's why I've included him here as a punt. Now as mentioned, the 4 in midfield is complete now, but you guys could go for some other alternatives. A James Maddison instead of a Buendia could be a selection to look at, but I just really like that Bournemouth at home game. Now final midfielder to go for, I've gone for kind of a cheaper selection to show you guys a player that you could potentially look at. It's going to be Leon Bailey from Aston Villa. Now obviously if you guys have money in the bank, I would probably upgrade him, but I still think that he's a viable option in that Aston Villa forward line. Seems to be playing as a kind of second striker in that side, so you might be looking at some points on your bench. Now as mentioned earlier on, the 4 in midfield will be the first 4. Obviously Leon Bailey will be on your bench. There are some other selections here, I can't include them all, but James Maddison will be top of the wish list. Now finally going to our forward department, and unfortunately the forward department is pretty template here. We're going to start off with the most expensive striker, Harry Kane. So yes, no Erling Haaland in this free drop, but you guys can understand that. Has a blank fixture, so why would you include him? Now Harry Kane, like Son, has that great fixture, Southampton away, might be a little bit of a tougher one with them finding relegation, but I still back Harry Kane on his day. Next up is Ivan Toney, pretty predictable there, has that Leicester game pretty strong, they still have a pretty bad XG conceded, and Ivan Toney has escaped the yellow card ban, at least for blank game week 28. Then finally we have Ollie Watkins. If I'm going to have Buendia, I'm going to have Ollie Watkins. Great game on paper, Bournemouth at home, might even be an outside Camsey punt if you guys do want to go differential. Now in terms of stats, his stats look pretty strong, is on penalties still. Aston Villa have a good XG, and I slightly prefer him over Kai Havertz. But if you guys do want to go for a Kai Havertz, I can understand why. I probably would replace Ollie Watkins with Kai Havertz. But in terms of a free at 28, I think the Bournemouth at home game is better than the Everton at home game. But now that you guys have got a sneak peek in terms of the kind of team selection, let me know what you think about this overall draft. You probably all go for James Maddison over Buendia. I just wanted to give you guys a punt that I think might do quite well. But in terms of the rest of the team, pretty template to be honest, but that doesn't mean it won't do well. Now finally, going over the team selection for the upcoming blank game week 28, just give you guys the picture of the fixtures and the starting 11, and I'll be running through this quite quickly. So bottom right hand side, a reminder here that you do have 2.3 million left in the bank, so a massive amount if you guys do want to make an upgrade. Starting off on our bench, we got Ray against Leicester at home. I'm going to bring in Kepa so you guys see the comparison. Everton at home versus Leicester at home. I do prefer the Everton game. We then have Leon Bailey against Bournemouth at home. Great fixture on paper, but he is quite cheap, and you have to bench someone. Then we have Shaw and Botman both against Nottingham Forest away, which is a great fixture. Now, I've already spoken about Kepa, so let's go over the rest of our defense. We've got a back three, Ben Shaw, Gabriel, and Kieran Trippier. Nice home games for the first two, and Nottingham Forest away isn't too shabby. Then finally, midfield department, the double up of Odegaard and Bukayo Saka looks pretty strong, but you guys can also go for Martinelli. We then have Heung-min Son and Buendia as our kind of differentials of choice, and no ways the non-free hitters have these two assets. Then finally, our forward department, the template part of the draft, Ollie Watkins, Ivan Toney, and our captain, Harry Kane. Now, I have gone pretty safe on the captaincy, but you guys can go for any of the assets, as they all have good fixtures. Now, Harry Kane will 100% be the most captain option going into the upcoming blank game week, but I still think he might be the best. You guys can let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Who's your captain going to the upcoming game week? And if you are on a free hit, how's that draft looking? You guys can also offer any kind of criticism. Don't roast me too much, but what changes would you guys make to the template? And if you aren't on a free hit, who's your transfer in this game week? This is the best wrap for the video, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. If you didn't like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the team selection coming up tomorrow or on Thursday. Otherwise, good luck for those Wednesday fixtures. But I'm going to sign off Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.